most important aspects of playing the bass, or any instrument for that matter, is posture. How you relate to your instrument on a physical level. The real problem regarding getting a correct posture for the electric bass is that this instrument isn't quite 70 years old yet, and as such, no one can quite come to an agreement on the best ways to play it. If you pick 5 players that you admire, chances are that you'll see a huge amount of variation in their stance, strap height, neck angle, and hand position. Our starting point for establishing a half-decent posture on the bass is to realise that playing this instrument is fundamentally an unnatural and asymmetrical activity. Your body isn't designed to have several kilos pressing down on one shoulder for extended periods of time. So, posture will always be a compromise between what makes sense on a biomechanical level and what is necessary to get around the instrument in a relaxed, musical way. Most of us are faced with the fact that we sit down to practice but have to stand up when we do a gig. Unfortunately, sitting down on a gig outside of a theatre pit is a bit of a no-go unless you happen to be Anthony Jackson. If you are Anthony Jackson, I'm not really sure why you're watching this. Ideally, you want your strap height to be roughly the same regardless of whether you're sitting or standing. Why? Well, if you spend hours sitting down practicing all of your red hot slap bass licks without a strap, like this, with your bass like that, and then you get on a gig and have your bass somewhere down below your waist because it looks cool, then you've wasted all of your practice time because your hands are in a completely different position relative to the instrument. I like to have my strap relatively short so that everything is consistent between seated and standing playing positions. I get the piss taken out of me all the time by bandmates asking if I can rest my chin on the top horn of my bass. But I can easily access all parts of the instrument and I haven't wasted any time in the practice room. If you're more concerned about how you look on stage than how you sound, then you need to have a word with yourself. In general, we're looking for balance and symmetry wherever possible and to avoid any sharp angles in the arms and wrists. Having the bass higher up when you're standing means that you can largely eliminate any harsh angles in the fretting hand, but it's harder to do the same thing in the plucking arm. If you have the bass lower down, then the reverse is true. Now, standing like this is pretty much the ideal posture, so why not just spend all our time playing standing up? If you're doing more than a couple of hours of practice, then standing for the duration becomes uncomfortable and it isn't practical. Most of us slobs like to sit down when we practice. The most common seated posture looks something like this: feet flat on the floor, thighs roughly parallel to the ground, and bass sits pretty much exactly where it is when you stand up. I like to use a strap even when I'm sitting down to practice because it means that my arms are not doing any work in balancing the bass. They're free to deal with the complexities of the instrument without the added burden of having to keep it on the straight and narrow. The only downside I find to this posture is that over the course of time as I'm practicing, I tend to sort of round my back and hunch over and slump, which is obviously not ideal. One way to get around this is to use a slightly different seated posture which steals a bit of stuff from classical guitar players, namely the use of a footstool underneath the left foot. What this does is it means that now the bass is going to sit between my legs and I can actually dispense with the strap, so I don't feel hemmed in at all. I can maintain a really good upper body posture, relatively straight spine, chest is open, means I can breathe freely, I'm not rounding over at all. The bass again is completely balanced. The top horn rests against my chest, the rest of the bass is between my legs, and my hands can easily access all areas of the instrument. Now, the only downside to this posture that I find is that if I'm practicing for an extended period of time, that I tend to get pins and needles or a dead leg in this leg. Now, having said that, I'm pretty badly put together, so you might not find that you have those sorts of problems. However you're sitting or standing to play the bass, the main thing is to stay relaxed and not tense up, as this will carry over into your playing. Your posture is your sound, and your sound is your posture. To that end, the main trouble spots tend to be rounding the shoulders and dropping the head forward. It's really hard to resist the temptation to constantly crane our necks over and look at the fretboard like that. Having your head in those sorts of positions, rounded over for long periods of time, can lead to tension, stiffness, pain, and limited range of movement in the neck, shoulders and back. If, like me, you find that your range of movement isn't that great, you feel tightness in your neck or your shoulders or actually even into your chest, and your upper back is full of knots, then it's worth looking at your physical life outside of bass playing. If your work involves long hours sitting at a desk, driving, or hunched over a keyboard, and you don't take steps to counteract these things, then you're not giving your body the best chance of working in its most optimal way. Having a regular movement practice, this could include anything from yoga, Pilates, weightlifting, martial arts, even interpretive dance. Having movement practice is really important for maintaining your physical quality of life in all areas, particularly playing and practicing music.